on this particular day, Donovan, he was the Youth for Christ director at the time. And, nice guy. Hi, Donovan. Hi, I'm not interested in him. Nice guy. And he invites me to a crusade. And
did you know each other before, or
yeah,
you met him?
I met him. Yeah.
Prior to the seeing him in St. Mary, you met him?
Met him at the school.
In St.
Right. We were just, hi, how are you, friends?
Okay. Oh, okay.
And she had come through the Baptist minister, who was my friend, and so the family, Baptist minister and his wife, were the agents God used to get her to Onotobe. So she was a choir director and so forth at church. Yeah.
Right. So he invited me to a crusade, and the person who was supposed to take us to the crusade did not turn up. So he said, come, let's go by my church and sit down and talk. So I said, okay. So we went and we sat down and talked. Now, there is one thing that I was willing to compromise in that relationship, the previous relationship. One thing, and it was this. I felt the call of God on my life to be a missionary. And I had said to God from way back then that I wanted to get married to somebody who had that similar call on their life. But this guy did not have that call. He loved God. He was the youth fellowship president at our church and so on. But he didn't have that call. But I was willing to sacrifice that because he was really a nice guy. And God said no. So here am I sitting down talking to this young man, and he's a technician in microbiology at the time, in a nice secular job and so on. And in the midst of it, he says, I feel like God is calling me to become a missionary. And I do a double take. Huh? Really? And we talk, and at the end of the talk, he says to me, let us sing the song. Anywhere he leads me, I will safely go. And both of us sing that song. And for me, something happened up there. For me, that was the beginning. It was like something was happening.
So we're getting into the...
And I didn't know that.
You didn't know that that's when the spark started to fly for
but,
her.
in Onotobe, with Youth for Christ, we needed help with music. And so we had this Talents for Christ competition, and I had young people who needed to be trained, but we had no musicians.
Okay.
So I invited this young lady, Miss McFarlane then, and that's how I called her, Miss McFarlane. Would you be willing to come and help us? And she was willing to come and do some training, and then she became Sister Faith. And then, the more I got to know her, the more I realized that there was this perfect balance between charm and spirituality. And so we went on some Youth for Christ events, the Talent for Christ competition, and I looked out for her, and I realized, God brought her into Onotobe for such a time as this. I was never involved in a relationship before. I was always working with young people and helping young people through difficult times. And I said, God, I don't want to have to suffer broken relationships. So, all kinds of things happened, and we were beginning to get close. And she said, we agreed that we should take some time and pray about this to see if this is of the Lord. And pray about this. So we prayed, and we decided that we're going to be staying away from each other for a while. And in the midst of that, God gave me a word. Yes. And I gave her a poem. The poem said, you pray. You pray. I stay away. See if that can cause us to stray. For together in God's plan we'll stay. So those were the words that God gave me. And I had a conviction that this was really my missing rib.
Hold on, Tell the truth now. How did that staying away process go?
Well,
Were you successful?
I lived in Onotobi and worked in Kingston, so I left
Okay.
Onotobi early and came into Kingston and that kind of thing. So it wasn't.
And where
We
was
did
it?
it. We coped with that.
The background of the staying away was the, well, he's done on this Indian and I'm not. So the background of the staying away was go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So we were really praying and seeking the Lord, and my parents really, especially my mom, was not interested in my marrying outside of the Indian ethnicity. So we decided we're just gonna take a little break and that kind of stuff, and that God spoke to me in that. I really just said we wanted to honor our parents, or my parents, in the midst of it. I didn't want to get married to somebody or become involved in a relationship with somebody that my parents didn't approve of.
Right.
But I knew that if God approved of it, then parents would approve of it. So we made sure that we gave them the respect that was due in the midst of that kind of relationship.
So that's a very key point, because I mean, in our culture or so on, if you're in a relationship and it seems as though the parents have, a bearing on that decision, to the point where